Hi Best Buds, it's Cathy with Cathy's Garden, and I'm so happy that you've joined me today. Today my tutorial is about junk journal tags using rub-on transfers, and I decided to use guest checks for this project. I did sew around the outside of my guest check with my machine, and I backed it with different things: coffee dyed paper, tracing paper, grid paper. I also used my tab punch and I created some tabs to go on here. I did a little stamping before I put the rub-on transfer on. I really love how these have turned out. I did paint some covering over the top so these transfers will not come up, and I think these tags have just turned out gorgeous. Won't you join me? The very first thing we need to do is we need to get ourselves a guest check. Here where I took out the staples, I'm actually going to remove this top portion at the perforation just to make it a little cleaner look. Then I'm going to take my vintage photo and I'm going to ink up all four sides of the front. I'm not going to ink the back. I decided to back my little tags just to make them a little firmer. I'm going to use my Yoo-Hoo glue stick and I'm going to use a piece of coffee dyed paper, and I'm going to glue my guest check directly on to this coffee dyed paper. And now it's time to trim it out. There are all kinds of transfers that you could use. Mine is the Iron Orchid Designs transfer. They are large, as you can see. They look like this. Now I have already taken one of these pages out. This is what I have left after decorating these tags here. So they go really a long way, and I just trimmed out the portion that I want to use. So as an example to show you what I mean by trimming them out, let's go ahead and let's look at this one right here. So how about if we just trim it down this way, and then I'm going to trim it around like this. I'm kind of looking at both what I'm leaving behind and also what I am removing. It's not going to fit completely, so I think I'm going to trim this around like this. I actually think I'm going to trim this around like this. And then maybe use it something like that. All right, so that's what I mean by trimming out, and then you could have this for another piece later. I got my Stays On Timber Brown, and I got my paragraph stamp. And I loaded up just a little bit of the stamp with the ink, and then I stamped my guest check. And I did some heavy and I did some light as the ink that I used. So some are heavy or some are lighter, and I just kind of went here and there. I didn't completely cover up the whole space. Now I have my little transfer, and it's time to place it where I want it and then rub it. Now I tried different things. I tried using my bone folder. I tried using the round part of my scissors. I kind of like the scissors the best, but I need to remove the back of this paper. So now it's like this, and I can place it where I want my transfer to be. So I think I want it to be something like that. Using my end of my scissors, I'm going to rub. And it kind of depends. I'm going to change it now and see if maybe this might work a little better. I don't know. 6 one, half a dozen the other. You're going to rub, and it took just a little bit on some, and it took a little bit more effort on others. I don't know that there's any rhyme or reason for why it took just a little bit of time on some and it took a lot longer on others. There, it's popped loose right there. Okay, we got that. So I think I just have to rub harder. Maybe faster. Harder and faster. Now let's see. Oh, look at that. That is wonderful. I absolutely love how that looks. The next thing I did was I took my white school glue. Actually, I did not water it down at all. I used it straight out of the bottle, and I placed my glue onto the top of my transfer. And I placed enough glue on here that I can brush this and cover this whole guest check with this glue. Now, there's always someone that says, can I use Mod Podge? If you want to, use Mod Podge. I personally do not care for Mod Podge. It never dries completely for me. It's always a little tacky. The white school glue is never tacky. So I will say you use what you like to use. And if Mod Podge is something that you like to use, then you should use it. Now, you can tell that I have covered my whole guest check with this. Now, I do need to let this completely dry before we do the next step. So now this is completely dry, and I took my sponge and I inked up the back side as well. Now, you do not have to use your machine, especially if you don't have one. You do not need a machine to finish this project. I personally love sewing paper, and I have a machine. So I'm actually going to take mine to the machine and sew around the edge. But as you can see, it's just as gorgeous whether you sew it or whether you don't sew it. Here is how it looks being stitched on the machine. And now I've punched out quite a few tabs, and I'd like to place my tab maybe about right there using my art glitter glue. I'm going to apply my glue to my tab, and then I'm going to place it so it's not going to cover up my transfer. So how about right here is a good spot. I absolutely love how this has turned out. This is not hard. It's easy, it's fun, and what a great way to use some transfers. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give me a thumbs up. I invite you to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in my next video. I'll see you there, guys. Bye now.